Alright, so here's a collection of my Micro Four Thirds camera. This is actually my first one after my Canon was stolen out of my car. I had a T6i that I picked up from OfferUp for like 200 bucks, and I had a lot of good experience with that before I got into photography, and actually got this as a deal for no more than, I believe it was a little bit less than 1100. Came with a warranty. Got it from a private seller. He was going through a divorce, so I got a really good deal on it. I think at that time when I was looking last year, these were still going for about 1500 minimum, just the body, and with the lenses it was about two grand, 1800 bucks, depends on what lens it came with. So this body here came with this 14 to 140 millimeter. I believe the aperture, it's like 3.5 to 5.6. So basically, this is a kit lens for this camera here. And the second thing I picked up was actually a 25. This is not it, but it was the Panasonic Lumix 25 mil, which I have very good experience with it. But when I found a deal for this Leica 1.4, it's 25 mil, which is equivalent to a 50 mil. It came with this 42.5, which is the 85 portrait, and the deal was so good because I think this lens alone, it was a 450, close to 380, I think the lowest I saw, but I got both of these for 400. So far this lens is really sharp. This is pretty much my portrait lens, and I do a lot of like automotive and motorcycle photography, and this shoots really sharp. It just gives it like that depth of field, and you're at a distance. It's really sharp. So if I'm doing some kind of street photography where I need a little bit more angle, I mean, this is not a wide angle, but it does give me better angle, I will use this. This is a 1.4 as well compared to this one, the 1.7. They're still fairly good. I think I took both of these to a show at night, and I was able to get some pretty good portrait of the musician who was up on the stage. And this is my latest pickup. This is the Panasonic it's GX85. It's an older model. It's 16 megapixels compared to the 20 megapixels, and this one here also shoots in 4K. You see my reflection here. The display is just like a swivel here compared to the GH5. The GH5 has a fully articulated screen, which allows you to go down, up, back, and then come back onto the full frontal view. And I'm really used to this, so when I'm on this one here, I do have trouble sometimes when I'm trying to shoot a certain angle and this screen here won't tilt up or swivel. But I do like the size of this. As you can see, the bulkiness of the GH5 compared to this handle here, it's not really there. I mean, not to say this is a light camera, but it does have a nice weight to it. So another thing is this lens you see here. This is a vintage Yashica 50 millimeter. So for this camera here is actually 100 millimeter. I actually enjoy shooting this camera as well because this is a fully manual lens with the manual aperture and manual focus. So on both of these cameras, when I shoot any photos, there's an option for me to kind of focus and zoom in on the focus object, it would give me a highlight on the image here to make sure that I'm focused, which is a very good feature on these Panasonics. Another thing is this camera also came with a what do we call this? Some sort of polarizer. So when I'm shooting cars and anything with reflection, this thing must, as you turn this surface here, this glass would cut the reflection, which is very useful. That's how you get the look on some of the automotive photography, when you get rid of the reflection. And also this lens gives it a really unique look when you shoot. So I could post up some samples as I'm doing this video. So far, I think I got this for no more than $60, I believe, maybe 72 ships from a seller on Marketplace on Facebook, and he sells the adapters for these too. I think these adapters, they're all over eBay and Amazon. They're like no more than 15 bucks. So I really just pay for this here. This is a 1.7, but I find the images are weirdly sharp after 2.8, so anything above 2.8. So when I shoot 1.7, it's slightly blur, but if I have some portraits that I could really focus in, I don't mind shooting 1.7, but 2.8, you could get really sharp images, even on this vintage lens. So 100 millimeter, that's also a really good lens for portraits. So out of all these, actually, my favorite lens would still be the 42.5, which is the 85. The reason being, I'm still able to get really sharp images. I know these Micro Four Thirds cameras doesn't have a full frame camera where you can get really sweet bokehs or bokeh, but I could show some samples from this, and I was able to get some really awesome shots. And what, I'm actually not doing a lot of videos on these cameras, which I should, because both of these cameras can shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second, and this one could even shoot more, I think like 180 frames for any of the slow-mo. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you some samples from both of these cameras. Even on details on both of these, it's very hard to tell the difference. I believe both of these cameras have a unique look to it when you shoot photos with them, even though they're really just, I guess you could say they're more of a cinematographer camera, where they could shoot film, and you're able to shoot as long as you want without overheating the sensors. So I want to wrap this up and probably say my next lens that I want to get, it's a wide angle lens, so I could do some real estate or interiors, and pretty much even some of the landscape that I want to shoot, maybe the Milky Way, if I was able to get a wider and just basically a wider angle, maybe I think they have a 12 millimeter 12 to 35 that I could pick up for about 500 bucks. But so far I'm happy with the lenses I have. This is a kit lens. Sometimes I take this with me as well to shoot outdoors. So this is pretty much a 28 to 280. That's a pretty good zoom. Also put a lens filter on this, so this is versatile as well. It is a heavier lens. I would have to say this is the most compact as well compared to this one here. And then if I take the lens hood off this 42.5, this is actually small. See how big my hand is compared to that. And this is the 50 or 25. This is the 14 to 140, and the vintage 50 mil, which is 100. So if anybody are looking to get a Micro Four Thirds camera, I think this is a really good starter, because price on these aren't too much, and this is really compact if you're able to store that away while you're traveling. And it's pretty capable for what you're paying. And this one here, it's more heavy duty. It's weather sealed as well, so if you're doing some serious videos and photography, this is the one to go. But you're gonna have to fork out a lot more cash. I think in 2020, like at this time, this is still going for at least $1,200, and this one here you'll be able to find something around 300 to 400, depends, on condition. I got lucky on this one. I think I paid about $200, and there was only this cosmetic damage here. Everything else works great. Came with 2 battery and 2 chargers, so I'm happy with the purchase there. Alright, so this is my first video reviewing both of these Micro Four Thirds camera. I'm not an expert by any means, but I do love photography, and I'm learning as I go, and especially on the equipment. I'm reading a lot of reviews on blogs and just pretty much absorbing as much as I can, but I would like to do more photography posts on YouTube, so I could post up some of the images I take, as I'm going through my photography journey. All right, and hit the like button if you like the video. If you don't, also hit it anyways. Maybe comment your questions, or if you're looking for a Micro Four Thirds, or just looking for something like a crop sensor, or you're going full frame, like, feel free to discuss anything pretty much about cameras and photography. I hope you enjoyed the video.